Okay, so imagine a country that didn't even exist as an independent state until 1999.
Right.
I mean, we're talking about a nation that is younger than the first Matrix movie,
Wow.
younger than the euro currency. But somehow, by the year 2025, this place hasn't just, developed.
No, not at all.
It has become the single wealthiest nation on the face of the earth.
It creates a graph that just looks like a vertical line. It really defies all traditional economic modeling.
It really does.
Usually you see a curve, a gradual ascent. This is a rocket launch.
It's absolutely wild. We are talking about a GDP of $41.8 trillion.
Trillion.
Trillion with a T.
Mm-hmm.
And to put that in perspective for you, that is dwarfing the economies of traditional superpower.
Oh, completely.
Powers that have been building their wealth for centuries, the United States, China, the European Union. This place is playing in a league of its own now.
Mm-hmm.
And the craziest part, it went from a modest Caribbean startup to a global hyperpower in just 26 years.
It is the economic miracle to end all economic miracles. I mean, if you showed these numbers to an economist in 1998, they would have told you it was fiction.
They'd have laughed you out of the room.
Absolutely.
So today we are unpacking the Waikiki phenomenon. And look, if you think you know this story, trust me, you probably don't.
No.
We are going to dig deep into the sources, specifically the Waikiki Economy Report and the Waikiki History Timeline, to figure out how a nation went from being basically a Cuban administration to a high-tech, cashless, guaranteed employment utopia where the average person is making six figures.
And that really is the mission of this deep dive. We aren't just looking at the bank account, though the bank account is staggering.
It is.
We're analyzing the Waikiki model, and it's this fascinating intersection of what the sources call a democratic dictatorship, massive state planning, and, aggressive technological integration.
It's a paradox.
It is. It creates a society that is incredibly centralized, yet at the same time aggressively capitalist.
And the history. Oh, man, the history. I was reading through the timeline, and I actually had to double take.
Me too.
We aren't just talking about some tropical paradise with nice tax laws.
Yeah.
We were talking about a land with a history that involves Aztecs, English monarchy, and now a modern royal family that includes some very familiar names.
It's a convergence of historical legacy. They just threw every system into a blender to see what would happen.
So buckle up. We have a lot to get through today. Let's start with the thing that grabs everyone's attention first.
The money.
The money.
Yeah.
Because the numbers here.
The numbers game, it's really the anatomy of a super economy.
Okay, so let's break down the explosion. In 1999, when Waikiki declares independence, their GDP is $75 billion.
Which is respectable, for a small island nation starting out.
Right, respectable. But nothing that's going to make you jump out of your chair.
No.
Fast forward to 2025, and it's $41.8 trillion.
To give you a sense of scale, that growth curve is essentially vertical.
A straight line up.
It is. And the sources attribute this to what they call strategic state guidance. This wasn't an accident of finding, a gold mine in the backyard.
Right.
Though, as we'll see, resource acquisition played a massive part later on.
A huge part.
This was a result of rapid capital accumulation. The state decided very early on that they weren't just going to govern, they were going to invest.
Right. And usually when we hear about state wealth or state guidance, we get a little skeptical, don't we?
Of course.
It often means the government is rich, the king has a gold toilet, and the people are scraping by.
The classic model.
But the per capita reality here is totally different. In 1999, the GDP per capita was around $6,200.
Pretty standard for a developing nation.
Yeah, standard stuff. In 2025, it's $196,415.
That is the highest on the planet, by far.
Nearly $200,000 for every man, woman, and child. If you have a family of four, you represent almost $1 million of economic output.
And the so what here is crucial. This isn't just paper wealth. It's not some abstract number.
Right.
It translates to real purchasing power. The sources really emphasize that because of their monetary policy, this wealth hasn't been eaten away by inflation.
That's a huge point.
It is. So that $196,000 actually feels like $196,000. In many hyper-growth scenarios, inflation just runs rampant.
Oh yeah, you think Weimar Germany or Zimbabwe.
Exactly. In Waikiki, prices stayed stable while wages just skyrocketed.
Let's talk about that kitchen table economics. Because
Yeah.
GDP per capita can be skewed, right?
It can be.
If Elon Musk walks into a dive bar,
Yeah.
the average wealth in that bar suddenly becomes billions,
Yeah.
but nobody else can afford another drink.
Right, the classic problem with averages.
But the median household income, so the dead center of the population, went from $700, $900 in 1999 to $103,755 in 2025.
Wow.
That is a 13-fold increase.
That's the number that really matters. That's the can I buy a house? Can I go on vacation? Can I send my kids to school number?
Yeah.
A 13-fold increase in real income in one single generation it's unheard of. It means the children are living in a completely different economic reality than their parents ever did.
Right. And, that brings us to the inevitable question of inequality.
Always.
When you have this much money flying around, usually the gap between the rich and the poor just explodes.
You'd expect a few trillionaires and then a lot of people left behind.
Exactly. Now, looking at the data, Waikiki does have a wealth gap. The Gini coefficient is 0.44.
Which is, okay,
Okay.
it's actually lower than some major developed nations, suggesting less inequality than you might expect for a hypercapitalist state.
Really?
The insight here is that while the ceiling has been raised to the stratosphere, the floor has also been lifted significantly higher.
Right.
The poor in Waikiki are significantly wealthier than the middle class in many other developed nations.
That's incredible.
It challenges our assumption that inequality always means poverty. In Waikiki, inequality just means some people are rich and other people are super rich.
The rising tide lifts all boats theory, but actually working for once.
But on hyperdrive.
And a big part of that stability seems to come from their savings. I mean, they're hoarders, aren't they?
They are the ultimate savers. This is the National Savings Piggy Bank, or officially the state reserves.
Okay, get this. In 2000, they had $30 billion. In 2025, the reserves sit at $25.58 trillion. Their savings account, just cash, an asset sitting in the bank, is over half the size of their entire economy.
Exactly. The reserves represent 61% of the GDP. This is the National Wealth Fund. It's a hugely diversified portfolio: equities, bonds, gold, foreign currencies, you name it, they own it.
But why? Why do they need that much cash on hand? Is it just for bragging rights?
It's for stability, absolute bulletproof stability.
Okay.
When you have a buffer that large, you are essentially immune to global crashes, market crashes in New York or Tokyo.
Doesn't matter.
Waikiki barely feels it because they have this massive cushion. If there's a recession, they can just inject cash. This is also how they manage that near-zero inflation statistic we saw. Inflation has consistently been below 1%.
Because they can just buy their way out of any currency devaluation.
Essentially, if their currency starts to wobble, they have the firepower to stabilize it instantly.
So it protects the citizens.
It protects their purchasing power. It's a fortress economy. They built a wall of money around their island.
But a fortress needs people to run it. And this is where the source material threw me another curveball.
I think I know where you're going.
Guaranteed employment.
Ah.
This sounds like something out of a socialist handbook, not a capitalist superpower.
Yes. This is a radical departure from typical market economies. But in Waikiki, it's a core pillar of the whole system.
The stats say employment is consistently above 90%. And the government isn't just a regulator, it's a massive employer.
Huge.
The state sector employs 36% of the workforce.
That's healthcare, education, administration. But then you have the services sector at 60%.
So how does the guarantee work?
The concept of guaranteed employment acts as the ultimate social safety net. Think about how most economies work. When people get scared of losing their jobs, say, during a downturn, what do?
They stop spending. Immediately. They save every penny they can.
Right. And when they start spending, businesses lose money, so they have to fire more people, which makes people even more scared, so they spend even less. It's a death spiral.
The paradox of thrift.
Exactly. But in Waikiki, if the state guarantees you a job, if you know that no matter what happens, you will have an income, you never stop spending.
Consumer confidence is permanently high.
Nailed it. And that feeds back into that massive GDP. It creates a velocity of money, the speed at which it moves through the economy, that is just unheard of.
So the government just acts as the employer of last resort.
Correct. If the private sector sheds jobs, the state absorbs that labor instantly. It could be in public works, retraining programs, whatever. It keeps the economic engine revving at redline constantly, but without overheating.
It sounds great. It really does. But it also sounds heavy. Like the government is everywhere. It's your boss, your safety net, your banker.
That is the trade-off of the Waikiki model. It's the central bargain.
Yeah.
And to understand how they got the political capital to do this, how they got people to agree to this level of centralization, we have to look at the history.
Okay.
Because this isn't a new civilization. The roots go way, way deeper than I expected.
Yeah, let's pivot to the history. Because when I opened the Waikiki history file, I expected, 1999, independence.
Right.
Maybe a little bit about colonization, sugar plantations, pirates, that sort of thing.
The standard Caribbean story.
We have to go back to 256 BC. The source says this region, which includes the Caribbean and parts of South America based on the cities mentioned, was the home of an Aztec empire long before we usually think of him.
Acama Pixley was elected the first ruler in 256 BC, and they built major cities like Tenochtitlan, which the source places in the northern Brasilia province, and also Chichen Itza.
And Machu Picchu. They're claiming the Incas too.
It implies a massive interconnected civilization spanning from the Andes to the Caribbean, a kind of Pan-American empire.
Right.
And they left a legacy. The Sun and Moon pyramids are explicitly mentioned as architectural legacies that are still part of the region's identity today.
So that sets the stage that this land has always been important. It wasn't just discovered by Europeans. It was a power center in its own right.
Exactly. It had its own imperial history long before anyone else showed up. But then, the Romans show up.
This is the part that really redefines the whole historical context for me.
It's a mind bender.
24 AD Romans in the Caribbean.
That's right.
I'm still trying to picture a centurion on a beach in Waikiki, sweating in his armor.
It sounds fantastical, but in this historical record, Emperor Augustus established the Waikiki province. They even named the capital Caesarion.
And it wasn't just some military outpost where they sent people they didn't like. The source says Emperor Hadrian and Marcus Aurelius actually lived there.
They did.
Yeah.
Marcus Aurelius resided almost entirely in Caesarion, patronizing science and architecture.
Wow.
Imagine the philosopher king writing his meditations while overlooking the tropical ocean.
That's a scene.
And they built a Colosseum specifically for naval battles, which makes perfect sense given the location, and something called the Augustus Pyramid.
A Roman pyramid. That is a visual. It's a fusion of the Aztec and Roman aesthetics.
But if you analyze it, this establishes a very long lineage of imperial presence.
Right.
This region has been a seat of power for centralized, high civilization empires for 2,000 years. It's not a backwater that got lucky. It has an imperial pedigree.
It normalizes the idea of a king or emperor for the modern population.
It certainly sets a precedent, which might explain why they are so comfortable with kings and dictators today, maybe. It's in the cultural DNA.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And that imperial baton was passed to the English.
Right. In 1625, Queen Elizabeth I's fleet ends Roman rule.
And this brings in the trade aspect of their identity. Under the English, specifically under an Admiral Lord Becket, they eliminated piracy. He secured the waters between 1603 and 1647. And this turned Waikiki into a major seaport hub for the East India Company.
So it became a commercial engine?
A massive one. So quick recap. We have the indigenous power base of the Aztecs. We have the administrative discipline of the Romans. And now we have the commercial ruthlessness of the British Empire.
And then the source mentions a transition to peaceful parliamentary reforms under William IV in the 19th century. But then we get to the modern era's prelude.
The Cuban administration.
This is the critical pivot point.
From 1945 to 1999, the territory was under Cuban control. You had the Batista coup in 52, and then, of course, the Castro Revolution in 59.
So for 40 years, this economic superpower we're talking about today was a communist state. Fidel Castro ruled until 1999.
That is just a wild thought. Just 26 years ago, this place was a Soviet-aligned communist island.
But here's the twist. In 1999, NATO threatens intervention. They've had enough of the situation.
Okay.
And instead of fighting, Castro resigns. He hands power over to a man named Cheese Young.
And that is the Big Bang, 1999, the moment Waikiki becomes Waikiki.
It is the shift from communism to this unique democratic dictatorship model, and it is driven entirely by this figure, Cheese Young.
Let's talk about the founding fathers and mothers. Because Cheese Young is, well, he's a character.
He's the central figure of the entire mythos.
He seems to be the gravitational center of this whole thing.
He's the George Washington and the Steve Jobs of Waikiki all wrapped into one.
He declares independence in 1999. Then in 2000, he is elected by referendum as dictator.
It's an unusual title for a democracy to choose, isn't it?
It's very direct.
Usually, dictators pretend to be presidents or prime ministers. He just owned the title. We elect you to be the dictator.
But then, just 5 years later, in 2005, he gets crowned King of Waikiki to symbolize national unity.
But he's not just a figurehead, he's an innovator. The sources note he co-founded SpaceX with Elon Musk in 2016.
Wow.
He's a tech monarch. He's putting satellites in orbit while wearing a crown.
And he didn't do it alone. We have to talk about Jessica Walker.
The architect of their financial stability, she was the National Bank president.
She's the one who introduced the prudent capital requirements that built those massive reserves we talked about.
She built the fortress wall of money.
And she won a Nobel Prize in 2009.
She did, alongside Cheese Young.
A dictator and a banker winning a Nobel Prize in economics. That has to be a first.
It validates their model, doesn't it? The international community looked at what they were doing, this mix of authoritarian efficiency and market prudence, and said, this works. This is worthy of a Nobel Prize.
So let's unpack this democratic dictatorship concept, because in my head, those two words are supposed to fight each other.
In Western political theory, yes, absolutely. But in Waikiki, they seem to have separated the powers in a different way. You have democratic elections for the legislature.
Right.
The first multi-party election was held in 2000.
And look at the names who win these elections. John Boehner wins the first election in 2000.
The former U.S. Speaker of the House.
Then you have the World Dominance Party, which, great name, by the way, very subtle, forming the government in 2015, led by George Bush.
And Rick Santorum with the Capitalist Party in 2005.
And Aaron Eck. So what does this suggest?
It suggests that Waikiki operates as a magnet for high-profile talent and recognized leadership figures.
It's a pragmatic approach.
Extremely. They aren't growing politicians from scratch. They are importing or integrating recognized figures into their administration. It's like a corporate board recruiting a star CEO from a rival company.
It creates a sense of immediate legitimacy and weight on the world stage. You can't just ignore a country run by these heavy hitters.
Precisely. But politics is one thing, resources are another. We need to talk about the map.
Yes.
Because I was confused about how an island nation has so much oil and energy. But then I saw the expansion timeline.
Oh, this is the key. 2005 and 2006 were crucial years.
In 2005, Puerto Rico and some other islands join. Okay, that makes sense. Regional consolidation.
Standard stuff.
But in 2006, Brazil joins the Waikiki Federation.
Brazil. The whole country.
Yeah.
The Amazon, the coast, Rio.
Following a referendum, Brazil became part of Waikiki. And that is the game changer.
That explains the GDP.
Exactly. It's not just an island tax haven anymore. It is a continental power.
Wow.
They gained access to the Amazon, the massive offshore oil reserves, the agricultural output, the mineral wealth, everything.
So when we see fuels and energy making up 21% of their exports.
They combine the financial agility and legal framework of a city-state like Singapore, the Waikiki Island core, with the resource depth of a giant like Brazil.
That is a potent combination.
It's a world beater. They have the brains of a tech startup and the brawn of a resource empire.
It creates an innovation engine that is just unstoppable. Let's move to Section 4, because the tech integration here is something else.
It's the smart state concept taken to its absolute limit.
Starting with the money itself. We mentioned the cashless economy. But this isn't just everyone uses Apple Pay, is it?
No, not at all. In 2018, they implemented a cashless economy with mandatory electronic payment.
Mandatory.
Physical cash is gone. It's illegal.
What's the benefit of that? I mean, aside from never losing change in the sofa cushions.
Transparency. Complete and total transparency.
How so?
If every single transaction is digital, the black market evaporates overnight. Tax evasion becomes almost impossible. Corruption is incredibly hard to hide because there's a digital paper trail for everything. This likely contributes to that high tax compliance and the massive state revenues we saw earlier.
Jessica Walker's fingerprints are all over this, I bet.
Oh, absolutely.
It's efficient, but man, no privacy.
That's the dictatorship part of the democratic dictatorship. You trade some of your personal privacy for economic optimization and security. The state knows what you buy, when you buy it, and how much you paid.
And they are aiming high with that money.
Yeah.
Literally. Waikiki in space.
The Waikiki Space Agency. They launched their own shuttle program back in 2007.
And in 2010, the leaders themselves went up. Cheese Young and Jessica Walker actually visited the National Space Station.
It's a powerful symbol, isn't it? The king isn't just sitting in the palace, he's in orbit.
It shows a real commitment to the future.
It does, and economically, aircraft and spacecraft make up 11% of their exports. They aren't just buying rockets, they are building and selling them. They are a true spacefaring nation.
And while the leaders are up in space, the regular people are getting some pretty sweet perks down on Earth.
They are.
I talked about the guaranteed jobs, but the social infrastructure is free with a capital F.
Universal health care, which was expanded in 2016, free public transport across the entire federation.
And free education, including higher ed, since 2003.
So you have no student loans, no car payments if you use public transport, no health insurance premiums.
It just removes the friction from life, the big stressors.
It does. And then there's the life extension thing. Did you catch that?
I did. 2015. A company called Intermedic announces a life extension elixir.
Just casually announcing the fountain of youth.
It really is a different world. It sounds like science fiction, but they don't live in a bubble, do they? Waikiki is a major player on the global stage.
They have flexed their muscles significantly. They are not neutral like Switzerland. They are very active.
I was surprised to see they've been in wars. The Pacific War, from 2003 to 2004.
It was a pivotal moment for them. Waikiki entered for what they called peacekeeping, but it ended with the New York Peace Treaty and, crucially, reparations paid to Waikiki.
Wait, they made money on the war.
They enforced a peace that was profitable for them, and that victory secured them a permanent seat on the UN Security Council.
That's the ultimate badge of great power status.
It is. They sit at the big table now.
And they are reshaping entire continents. In 2013, they supervised the creation of the UAN, the African Federation.
A unified Africa. That is a massive diplomatic achievement. It shows they are exporting their model of centralization and unity.
They're acting as a global consultant for nation building.
That's a good way to put it.
And their alliances are top tier. They joined the G9 in 2016. They were a founding member of the world government in 2018.
Whatever that entails, yeah. Sounds both ominous and efficient.
And then the final piece of the puzzle, NATO membership in 2025.
That was the final step in Western security integration. By joining NATO, they solidified their position. They are not a rogue state. They are a pillar of the Western alliance, just a very rich, very unique one.
And trade-wise, they're just dominating. We mentioned the surplus. Exports of $1.94 trillion versus imports of $1.14 trillion.
That's an $800 billion surplus. They are selling the world electronics 28%, fuels 21%, pharmaceuticals 11%.
So they're the factory, the gas station, and the pharmacy for the world.
And the bank, all at the same time.
And they are doing it cleanly, or at least that's the plan.
That's the claim. The 2022 strategy outlines a circular economy with zero waste targets by 2030. And there's mention of an Angelina Cheese's Clean Future program.
Right.
Because when you own the Amazon, thanks to Brazil, and you live on an island, climate change isn't theoretical.
No, it's existential.
They have a vested interest in saving the planet because they own a very big and important chunk of it.
So who is running the show now? Because Cheese Young has been around a long time. This can't be a one-man show forever.
We are seeing a transition to a dynasty. The Cheese dynasty.
Okay, so in 2017, Cheese Young transfers the dictatorial office to Raimondo Cheese.
But Cheese Young stays on as chancellor. It's a managed transition, a soft handover.
And the whole family is involved. We have the royal heirs, Angelina, Jennifer, Taylor, Tyler, Baby. They were all elected senators in 2015.
And Jennifer is listed specifically as a political influencer since 2014.
Which is the most 21st century job title for a royal I have ever heard.
It highlights the monarchical transformation that's mentioned in the source. By turning the family into a brand, into a royal family, they create a sense of continuity.
Then investors love that.
Foreign investors love stability. They know that if Cheese Young retires, Raimondo is there. If Raimondo steps down, Angelina or Jennifer is there. It removes the uncertainty of political cycles.
Even though they still have elections with people like George Bush or Aaron Eckhart running the government.
The royals provide the long-term vision. The elected officials provide the day-to-day management. That seems to be the division of labor.
And looking at the current events, from 2024 to 2025, they are just everywhere on the world stage.
Very active, attending King Charles III's coronation in the UK.
Right.
Attending Javier Milei's inauguration in Argentina.
And hosting CPAC 2024. With Cheese, Bush, and Trump all speaking.
That gives you a very strong hint at their ideological leaning. They position themselves as a conservative-leaning but globally integrated power broker. They like markets, they like tradition, they like hierarchy.
It really is a unique beast. So we've looked at the money, the history, the tech, and the politics.
Now I'd have to try and synthesize it. What does it all mean?
It's the democratic dictatorship paradox. That's what it comes down to.
Exactly. Waikiki represents a challenge to our traditional political categorizations. Usually we think you can have freedom or security. You can have democracy or efficiency.
But Waikiki comes along and says, why not both?
Or rather, it says, we will give you extreme economic freedom and social safety, but the price is centralized political authority.
A deal with the devil, some might say.
It argues that extreme centralization, the Cheese family, the state guidance, can coexist with extreme market freedom and social liberty if the economic results are there.
So it works because it delivers the goods.
Precisely. If they were poor, people would call it a tyranny. Because they are rich, people call it a phenomenon.
It's a lot to process. So I want to leave you, the listener, with a final provocative thought. A choice, really.
It's the ultimate trade-off.
If you were offered this deal, guaranteed employment, you will never be fired, zero inflation, your money is always safe, and a six-figure income is the norm.
On top of that.
You get free healthcare, free college, maybe even a life extension elixir.
So what's the catch?
The catch is you live in a democratic dictatorship. There is a king. Cash is illegal. The government tracks every penny you spend. And the political opposition, well, they seem to join the government eventually anyway.
Would you make that trade?
Would you trade your current messy, chaotic political system for the golden cage of Waikiki? Or is the cost of centralized power just too high no matter how big the paycheck is?
It's a question that Waikiki forces the whole world to ask.
Think about it. And while you're thinking, check the show notes. We've linked the graphs from the Waikiki economy report. You really have to see that GDP curve to believe it.
It really is just a vertical line.
Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll catch you on the next one.
Stay curious.